Young Sheldon producer claims TBT's George stories were false. Hello everyone, my name is Alana. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and give this video a like. Up Sheldon's stories about George in The Big Bang Theory are false, according to young Sheldon producer Steve Holland. Due to his advanced age at the time of the show's events, the Cooper patriarch was unable to make an in-person appearance in the nerd-centric sitcom. But because of Mary's outbursts and Sheldon's childhood tales, The Big Bang Theory was able to clearly depict George's character as a family man. The Big Bang Theory's prequel presents George as an imperfect but loving spouse and parent, which contradicts the show's portrayal of George as a bad father. Holland's most recent statement regarding the issue in an interview with TV Line is to clarify the disparity, even if it is likely the worst young Sheldon narrative hole to date. See his complete quotation below. Young Sheldon has produced numerous storyline discrepancies with The Big Bang Theory during its 6 years of broadcasting. Its portrayal of George, however, remains its most obvious flaw, and CBS has long indicated no intention of bringing the prequel's portrayal of the character into line with the way he was portrayed in its parent series. However, given that Young Sheldon Season 6 just set up George's notorious cheating scandal, things might be beginning to improve. Don't anticipate the story to end very soon, even if Mary and George had a huge argument while Mandy was giving birth. Holland has stated that Young Sheldon Season 6 will not feature Sheldon's cheating plot. Actually, he hasn't promised that the spin-off will address the issue. In Young Sheldon, they previously attempted to explain that Sheldon has become more understanding of his father's position as a parent. In order to protect George's reputation, it is not out of the question that CBS will find a means for him to retrace the beginnings of his knocking practice. The Coopers still have a difficult path ahead of them, even though it's likely that the family comedy avoids discussing George's cheating issue. Expect a huge consequence from George and Mary's dispute at the hospital now that their separate cheating ways are public knowledge. Indeed, it will influence the remainder of Season 6 of Young Sheldon. For years, fans of The Big Bang Theory, TBBT, have been immersed in the wild antics of the characters, especially the quirky, lovable Sheldon Cooper. However, one topic that has sparked significant controversy among fans is the portrayal of Sheldon's father, George Cooper Sr. The long-standing portrayal of George on TBBT had left viewers with a somewhat negative and controversial image of the character. But now, in a shocking revelation, the producer of Young Sheldon, the spin-off prequel that explores Sheldon's childhood, has come forward to expose the truth behind the inaccurate depiction of George Cooper in The Big Bang Theory. Is the portrayal of Sheldon's father a complete myth, or is there more to the story than meets the eye? First introduced Sheldon's father, George Cooper, the audience was led to believe he was an absent, negligent, and often irresponsible figure who struggled with alcohol. Throughout the show, Sheldon repeatedly referred to his father in ways that painted a bleak picture of the man. He was often described as a bad influence, with a broken relationship with his wife, Mary, and a father who was emotionally distant. However, when Young Sheldon premiered, fans quickly realized that there was much more to the story. George Cooper, as portrayed by Lance Barber in Young Sheldon, is nothing like the distant, flawed man depicted in TBBT. Instead, viewers are introduced to a much more sympathetic and complex character, one who is shown to be caring, hardworking, and emotionally invested in his family. This was a stark contrast to the angry and frustrated man seen in Sheldon's memories on The Big Bang Theory. So why the major discrepancy? According to Young Sheldon's producer, Chuck Lorre, and some of the writers, the portrayal of George in TBBT was never meant to be a fully accurate representation of the character. In fact, Lorre admits that the writers of TBBT intentionally painted George in a more negative light for the sake of humor and the overall narrative. Lorre, who also played a key role in creating Young Sheldon, acknowledges that many of Sheldon's anecdotes about his father were exaggerated and, at times, unreliable. These portrayals, Lore says, were from Sheldon's perspective, and Sheldon's memories were always prone to skewed views, especially when it came to his father. While The Big Bang Theory often used Sheldon's childhood as a comedic device, young Sheldon offered a deeper exploration of Sheldon's family dynamics, allowing the audience to see George as a more multi-dimensional character. In Young Sheldon, we wanted to show that George was not the villain he was often made out to be, says Lore. We wanted to give him more depth and explain that Sheldon's perception of him wasn't entirely fair. According to psychologists, Sheldon's warped view of his father is a result of his own emotional struggles. As a child, Sheldon had a very specific and rigid worldview that left little room for understanding the complexities of human relationships, especially within his family. It's clear that Sheldon's difficult relationship with his father played a pivotal role in shaping his perception of George, leading to a negative portrayal in The Big Bang Theory. For years, fans of TBBT believed George's shortcomings were a defining aspect of Sheldon's upbringing. The idea of a cold, distant father who wasn't there emotionally resonated with viewers on a deep level. However, this assumption has now been challenged with the airing of Young Sheldon. In fact, the depiction of George in Young Sheldon has sparked an entirely new debate among fans. Did Sheldon misremember his father's actions, or was George simply misunderstood? The Young Sheldon team has worked tirelessly to rewrite the legacy of George Cooper Sr. in a more positive light. Gone are the days of a neglectful, alcoholic father figure. Instead, George is portrayed as a man trying his best to navigate the challenges of raising a family in a tumultuous environment. Despite his flaws, George's devotion to his wife, Mary, and his children, especially Sheldon, is evident throughout the series. The change in how George is portrayed has led to some significant fan reactions. Some fans of TBD have expressed disappointment, feeling that the Young Sheldon version of George conflicts with the character they grew to love or hate over the years. Others, however, see it as a much-needed redemption arc for a character who was unfairly maligned for so long. For fans of TBD, the revelation that George was inaccurately portrayed raises some interesting questions about the show's overall accuracy in depicting other characters and family dynamics. If Sheldon's memories about his father were skewed, could other elements of his childhood be similarly distorted? How much of the Big Bang Theory version of Sheldon's family life is truly reliable? The release of Young Sheldon has given fans a more intimate look at the dynamics of Sheldon's upbringing, allowing them to see the complexities of his family in a way that was never explored in TBBT. This deep dive into Sheldon's past has raised the stakes for the legacy of the Big Bang Theory, and fans are now more invested than ever in seeing how Sheldon's character was shaped by both his family and his unique worldview. The debate over George Cooper's portrayal also raises larger questions about the role of family and memory in shaping our identities. In many ways, the inaccuracies in TBBT's depiction of George highlight the subjectivity of memory itself. People's recollections of their past are often clouded by emotion, bias, and even time. Sheldon, being a highly intellectual character, had his own challenges in understanding the nuance and complexity of human relationships. His memories, therefore, were likely incomplete or even distorted. It's important to recognize that George's portrayal, both in The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon, is not necessarily about the man himself, but rather about how Sheldon remembers him. The contrast between the two shows highlights how different individuals can perceive the same events in vastly different ways. This serves as a reminder that the past, especially the way we remember it, is often not as clear-cut as we might like to believe. In the end, the revelation that The Big Bang Theory's portrayal of George Cooper was inaccurate, as suggested by Young Sheldon producer Chuck Lorre, brings a new depth and complexity to the character. George, who was once relegated to a one-dimensional, flawed figure, is now seen in a more sympathetic light, giving fans a more well-rounded view of Sheldon's family. While this shift may cause some controversy among TBBT purists, it ultimately offers an opportunity for fans to rethink the meaning of Sheldon's childhood and his relationships with his family. Whether you prefer the more comedic version of George from The Big Bang Theory or the more nuanced portrayal in young Sheldon, one thing is for sure. George Cooper Sr. is no longer just a figure from Sheldon's distorted memory. He's a fully realized character with his own story to tell. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.